Hi, my name is Mary Parsons, and I've made several of the face masks, and I the directions in the video I'm using I thought was good, but they were like the hardest part. You couldn't see what she was doing, and she didn't talk about the cutting. So I'm going to start the beginning, and it's very simple. You don't need to make a pattern. There are lots of videos on YouTube about it. Some of them would just make the whole process like 3 times longer. All right, so if you're a quilter, you have numerous rulers, probably too many rulers. So I'm using the big one, but anyone that's 6 feet, 6 inches wide would be fine. I always try to match up as many parts of the ruler as I can. So I line up the bottom, and then I already trimmed off the 2 edges. All right, so I'm going to do a 6-inch cut here. And I will go ahead and do both of them. Just move this a little bit so you know exactly where you're going to be doing your second cut. And I probably have enough for another one. All right, so now, so it's 6 inches one way and then 9 inches the other way. And for the 9 inches, I do it from the top. Now both of these pieces of fabric I have are kind of weird. I'm just using what I have in my stash, but they're both flower fabrics. I thought they would go together. I make mine two-sided so they can, so just trim it off the top. Now to get 9 inches, you need 3 more inches. So you just get another ruler. You know, any ruler's fine. 3 inches this way. Okay, I'm lining up here. So that's a little bit better. Now, some people don't like this, but I'll cut backwards. You can turn around and go the other way if you're not comfortable doing it this way. So that is 2 masks here because it's double fabric, and 2 masks there. I'll go ahead and cut this one too. I have a lot of projects going on. Okay. I barely have enough of to here at the end, so I really don't need to make another cut here. All right, so that's cutting it. Pieces of 9x6 fabric. You can use the same fabric. I use 2 different ones, right sides together. And then you need 2 strips of elastic. This is 1/4 inch, 7 inches long. If you're out of the flat elastic, I'll talk about the other kind later. So to start, you just put it in the corner. So the curved part's going to be inside. Just put it in there and start sewing. I go back and forth to where the elastic is because you don't want that to come out while they're using it. I'm using a 1/4 inch seam. It really doesn't matter. So I'm going back and forth on both sides of the, both edges. Okay, when you get down to the other side, you just tuck the other corner into the elastic in the corner. I like to sew fast. Okay, when you get to the other end, you need your other piece of elastic. Same thing. Put the end up in the corner. turn, you need to be careful not to sew all the way to the, connect the other one. Okay, the next step, you just turn it and press it. Okay, so I turned it and I pressed it. I think you all understand how to do that. This is the trickiest part of it. You have to I make 3 pleats, and I'm lucky to have a real fancy machine. I have a ruler right here. You can use any ruler you want, but I take an inch. I see an inch, and then I fold it over, and pin it down. So you do that 3 times. And I try to get it so that the seams, the folds here don't overlap. That's a lot of layers of fabric we're going to be sewing through. Okay, sometimes the last one gets too small and I have to redo it. Okay, when you do the other end, make sure the pleats go the same way. So it's going to go that way. Measure an inch, and it folds up that way. This may be about the 10th one I've made. I've made quite a few. I think this pattern was designed for cancer and COPD patients, especially for children. They didn't like the feel of the paper on their face, so they weren't wearing them. So she was using flannel on the back. I thought that for this time of year that would be too hot. Now, something I learned from my first ones, you kind of line this top up. You know, that my first few were a little bit crooked. All right, so I'm going to just top stitch all the way around twice. I go all the way up to the end. Again, I just want to be sure that those elastic pieces aren't going to come out. Now it's real thick. I'm using my knee lifter to lift up the foot a little bit. I go ahead and take them all out at the same time, but you don't have to. That pleat got real close to that one. I find if you take the pins out, it's easier for them to line up better, keep straight. I'm not worrying too much about the color of thread. I'm just keeping what thread I got in there. I don't know, your choice. All right, go around again just for security. Okay, now, it's quite possible you'll have trouble finding the 1/4 inch flat, elastic, which is much easier to use. But this, I think it's called beading elastic. It's small and it's round. But if you use that, we found that cutting it at 7 3/4 is better. You have to tie 2 knots on the end, and then when you sew it to the fabric, I found this out through trial and error. Put the knot on the outside, and you have to be careful and hold it because it rolls around. And I'm really careful on going back and forth over this because it's so thin. And I also, at the finished ones, I really went back and forth at them. But they work fine. All right, I hope that helps. Oh, yeah, and here's the one we made here. I kind of thought that was cute fabric. So, all right.